What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Westbrook Chess Stream. Tonight we are going to be playing through a round of Puzzle Rush and through a rapid rated chess match. I just want to give a quick shout out to Fresh Flame, Haas00312, and Godchilla for the recent follows. Thank you all so very much. And yeah, we're going to kick off a survival mode puzzle rush so that we can have plenty of time to think and talk through the puzzles as we go along. And we're going to try to break the high score on the stream, which has been 21 so far. My high score, as you can see, is 25. And in the last session, we got 19. So yeah, let's see if we can improve on that. If you're watching, if you're tuned in, feel free to hop into the chat and to throw out your suggestions. Anytime I get a puzzle wrong, I'll be going back and looking at the puzzle again, and I'll be checking out y'all's suggestions and seeing how you did. So yeah, feel free to chime in what you think is the right move. So without further ado, let's jump into the puzzle rush. All right, so in our first puzzle we have white to move, and it looks like this may be a simple back rank checkmate. However, the d8 square, this one's actually interesting. So the d8 square is covered by the queen and the rook. Normally in the first puzzle, these major pieces are doubled. So this one is actually a tad bit interesting. So if I move the rook to, let's say, rook e to e1 to e8, that'll deliver a check, and the rook will take. Oh, okay. No, this one is more simple than I thought. Okay, so the queen on d5 is actually attacking the rook on a8. So if we take that rook, then we'll be cleared for a back rank checkmate. So when I take this piece, the knight on b8 will retake, and then my rook will be able to deliver the back rank. So yeah, that works out. Awesome. Keeping me on my toes from puzzle number one, guys. All right, white to move. We have 2 moves until we queen. It's going to take the other pawn 3 moves until they queen. However, when we queen, let's see. It's our move, so step, step, queen, step. We'll be able to move our queen down to a1 in time. So yeah, we're just going to push the pawn. Queen, yep. That's that. Super simple endgame. All right, puzzle 3. This is black to move. Okay, so it looks like we are attacking the rook on e1. If we were to take that rook, I believe it would be delivering checkmate. That is correct. All right, black to move. What in tarnation is this puzzle with 2 queens? Okay. So this is hilarious. So we need to deliver check. We need to have a forcing finish so that these 2 queens can't overpower us. Trying to think of what the best decision is. So we have a check on h5. That would unfortunately move that would send the king over to the G file. This is interesting. They're actually, these are some pretty interesting puzzles for being, the first puzzles of the day. There are just several checks. Okay, so let's go through the checks. We've got rook f2 check. We've got queen h5 check. We've got queen e5 check. That one's not covered, right? And we have queen. Oh, that's it. Oh no, we have queen e2 check. So we have 1, 2, 3 queen checks, and we have the 1 rook check. Which one is the right check though? That's the question here. Or is this more simple? Is this not about that? This could be. I'm trying to think about which check is arbitrarily better so that we can force checkmate. It may actually be that I'm supposed to take the queen, because when they take back, I'll be up a rook and pawn versus king endgame. That I think is the correct answer. All right, that was just me overthinking the situation, but yeah, no harm, no foul. Okay, so now we have black to move, and it looks like this is going to be a back rank checkmate with our bishop covering the h2 square, so there's no escape for the king. So when I check on b1, we have a few pieces able to block, but not to ultimately halt the checkmate from taking place. Okay, now we have black to move. It looks like we have a knight check, a poor one, it seems, on d2. It looks like we can bring the queen in to f2. If I drop the queen here, this looks like checkmate. All right, black to move. If the rook was not covering the d file, then I could check on queen d5. That would be a good check. Ooh, interesting, the queen on a8. So our knight on h4 is actually not able to check the enemy king. The only checks that I see, there's a check on queen e4. So if we check there, then I should be able to. If I check on e4, a pawn can interpose, and I can check the pawn. I can take the pawn and then check again. And when the king is forced to move to g1, it looks like we can deliver checkmate on g2. Okay, I'm going to test this theory out. And mate. All right, new puzzle, black to move. It looks like white has played h3 to give the king an escape square on h2. Unfortunately for white, we do have a dark squared bishop, so I'm going to check on the unprotected d1 square. When the king steps down, we're going to deliver check again, and we're going to deliver check again with bishop e5. Now, here's the interesting part. The interpose of the pawn. We need to keep the attack up. I can't just check on h1. Oh, but that was a fork, actually. I didn't even notice. That last check was a fork with the rook. Awesome. Okay, what did he just take? The knight's taking a rook, but we have a more powerful and meaningful threat on the enemy king. It is this back rank checkmate idea. Okay, so black to move. Let's see. We can't safely check on e1 because the white queen is covering that square. We can, however, check. We can check with the b rook. Now, the king will have a choice. It looks like the king can step to f2 or h2, so we need to think about either scenario. Okay, so if I check with the rook on b1 and the king steps to, let's say, h2, I have this really awesome, I'll have this a good check on e5, it seems. If the queen takes, I recapture with a pawn, and I have a passed pawn. That's one thought. Is there a better move, though? Let's think if the king steps to f2 instead. Then we can check on e1. No, we can't, because at that point, that square will be double covered. First piece taken by the queen, the second piece taken by the king. Ooh, this is interesting. I can actually check with the queen on b1 as well, which is also interesting to me. Both of my major pieces have access to that b1 square. I'm trying to think about the geometry here. It's unfortunate that the white queen has access to the e5 square where we'd like to deliver check. However, we can check on f4. So if we go rook b1 and the king steps over to, say, h2, we can deliver our second check on f4, which is not covered. Then the pawn can come down and interpose, and we should have checkmate with queen f2, if that's the case. Okay, so that direction, it's looking good. That looks like a forced checkmate in 3 moves. Now, what if we check on b1, and the king steps to f2? In this case, we don't have the check on e1. Rather, we could check with f4. And if that were to happen, the king would again have a safe square on e2. Would that be the only safe square for the king? So check. The king steps. How many checks do we have in that case? If the king steps to f2, we will have 1, 2 safe checks. h4, queen h4, if the king is on f2, are both checks. If we check on f4, his safe square, the only one, is e2. If we check on h4, then we give him f3 and e2. If we force him into e2, how can we finish him from that point? So I could check on f1. And what does he have? He can run out into the middle of the board. I really don't want him to be able to run away. I'm not exactly sure what the finish line would be in that case, but I think I've thought about this enough to know that rook b1 seems to be our best bet. And sometimes, even if you can't calculate all the way to the finish, if you know you're not going to lose anything and you give yourself attacking chances, it seems to me that is still a valid line of thought. Okay, so the king has not stepped towards the center of the board. He has stepped into cover, and this will seal his fate. We should check here. And yeah, the puzzle didn't follow through to the actual checkmate, but that looks like we found the winning idea. Okay, so the rook took the pawn on h4, and now we presumably have a tactic to exploit. We have, this is white to move, by the way, we have the c-rook aiming down the open file. We have the queen on d4 threatening. It looks like we have a lot of squares covered already. The bishop on a3, the dark squared bishop, is taking away 2 squares from the king. The rook is taking away 3 squares from the king. Presently, his only safe squares are e7 and 8 and d8. What checks do we have? So we have a safe, let's see, do we have any safe queen checks? We do have queen a4 check, which would take away, let's see, which would only take away 1 square. He could freely step into, let's see, that would be d8 or e7. From that point, would we have another forcing check to deliver? We would have the rook that if he or she, if black goes e7, the rook can check. If black goes d8, the rook does not have a check. This is interesting. I don't just want to give the queen a4 check right off the bat in case there's a better idea that I just haven't seen yet. Okay, so just thinking through checks. Is queen a4 the only check that we have. Yeah, the dark squared bishop cannot check on the light squares, and the rook on c2 cannot safely deliver check. Okay, so queen a4 is the only check that we have. So let's just go down that path mentally first. So once again, the king will have the escape squares d8 and e7. So let's consider the easier option, e7. So if the king steps to e7, we can go rook c7 check, and we just have to imagine we have the bishop and the queen angling from a3 and a4. We would also have a rook checking on c7, so this would force him into the square d8. Okay, so still, either way, we're forcing him to d8. If he goes to e7, a rook check can force him to d8, and the rook check is safe, but once he moves to d8, the rook is now in danger. So let's consider with and without the rook what we can do to the king on d8 from our position of queen a4, bishop a3. Just visualizing the king on d8. If the rook is there on c7, it looks like we can safely check with the bishop on a3 or on e7, but the king can capture the rook in that case. The rook is hanging. Trying to see the finish here. King d8 after queen a4. The queen doesn't have any good checks. The d6 square is covered. That would be a decent check. No, the queen won't have access to that square. The queen will be on a4, which is, these are light squares that we're talking about. So right, we'll have no good checks. What's another option? Is there some other thing, some other tactic? If we don't make a forcing move, let's say we did something like rook c6. If we moved rook c6 with the queen supporting it, the queen can move and check on e2. So the queen will have an active attack on our king. That'll be checkmate. If my rook isn't there to defend that square, then it's checkmate. Queen e2, rook h1 would be a checkmate. So we have to have a forcing combination. Okay, so it's difficult for me to understand what the queen could do from that square. Is there some kind of decoy that I could do? Okay, so let's think about this again. So the king is on d8, right? I can send the bishop to check on e7, and the king can step. The king can take the bishop, And then what does that do for me if I get him over to e8? If I check him, oh, he can't go to e7. Oh, I'm messing this up. Okay, so queen a4, check. He can't go anywhere except for d8. That is actually the only available square to him. He can't step over to e7 because of the bishop covering. I missed that. Okay. So now I just have to visualize what we're going to do to check him on d8. So at that point, if he's on d8, what if I were to decoy him onto c8? So let's say that he's on d8. He's stuck in that box. Let's say that I checked him with the rook on c8, and then he took. What could I do then with the queen? Then I could go queen e8, check, and he can step c7 or c8. Right? Yeah, he can step to c7. Well, if the queen is checking on e8, then he actually can step to, c7, or that's it. No, he can't step to b8. He has to step to c7. So what we've accomplished is we've got the king on c7 now. What does that do for us? We've given up our rook. This has to end in checkmate. The bishop can check on d6 and force him he'll have to go to b7 or b6. Those should both be available to him. If the queen takes the bishop, then we're solid in that scenario. This is so interesting. Okay, I think I'm convinced enough now, at least, to play queen a4. I think this is the only option. That is the end of the puzzle. What happens if I click on one of these? Wow, 654. That doesn't seem like it should be the end of the puzzle. That's really interesting. I'm just gonna add this to the chat. Just to remind myself to go back and check that puzzle again. That was really strange. I spent a lot of time on that puzzle, and I wasn't really expecting the puzzle to conclude there. I thought the queen had an escape square, and I thought that it was relatively complicated getting to checkmate. So yeah, that's really, really interesting to me. Okay. Anyway, now we have white to move. And it looks like checks with the queen. We can take the rook and we'll be taken by the bishop. That's covered. We can check. We can take the bishop and the knight will retake. That square is covered on e7. taking the pawn on c6 would give check, but is covered. So it looks like a lot of our queen captures that are checks are covered. Yeah, c6 is covered. c8 is covered. And e7 are covered. Okay, let's think about the knight. What kind of threats can the knight or the rook make? The rook has a capture on e6. The only piece that can retake is the pawn. What does that open up for us? Oh, if we okay. So this is removal of the defender. So the rook has one defender, it's the bishop, and we are able to check the defender. We're able to take the defender rather. So if we take the bishop on e6, the pawn recaptures, we're down a rook for a bishop. However, we can then take a rook with check, and it might actually be checkmate at that point. We shall see. Check. Awesome. Sweet. 12 down. All right. Black to move. Let's see. This one looks like a hanging pawn on g2. I don't know this for a fact, but given the early point in this game, I'm fairly certain that the point of this is the hanging pawn on g2. Our bishop is looking right at it. Is there anything more interesting? Let's say what are his other captures just considered? We take on g2 on c2. Queen recaptures. Do we have some kind of crazy knight thing? No, the knight can't check. So, yeah, I'm thinking it's bishop takes g2. Okay, now we have to retake, and the only option is with the b pawn. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, sweet. Hanging pawn and a rook. That one's always really mean and unfortunate when it happens to you in a game. That's never fun. Never going to be on the receiving end of that one. Okay, so now we have a white to move. Interesting. We can check on c7 with a knight. It would be a sacrifice. Then we could check with the rook on d8. And that might be checkmate. That's what I'm thinking. The king has the choice to step to f8. If that were to happen, then I think we have the checkmate with rook d8 sacrifice takes rook d8. No piece can interpose. So yeah, I'm gonna say that we start this attack off with knight c7. The king is going to sidestep. I believe we have the checkmate with a sacrifice here and a recapture. Sweet. Awesome. Not off to a bad start. Only 5 more puzzles, and we matched the Puzzle Rush on the stream yesterday, 2 days ago. Something like that. This one seems relatively simple. If I check on f7, the square is not covered, and the king will be forced back, and we'll have a back rank. Checkmate. Is this square covered? No. Just double checking that it isn't covered, and that's mate. Right, black to move. Ooh, interesting. Our kings are right next to each other. I can give a check on f3. Yeah, a check on f3 would give white the free square g1, I believe, would be. Yeah, g1, I believe, would be the square free. And then what after that? We need to take that square away. Oh, the queen is hanging. Yeah, the queen is hanging. So if I just take the queen, are there negative consequences? Can the bishop... No, the bishop can't do like a fork of both, and it's like a bad trade. What was the move before this? The knight steps up. Interesting. This is strange to me that... Is the puzzle really just to notice that the queen is hanging? Looking for the tactic that comes next. So the knight will check... The knight won't be able to check on d3 because the queen will be covering that square. The bishop can check the king only with c3, and that won't be covering the d8 square. I think it's a free queen, guys. I may regret this, but... Yep. Dang, maybe there was a checkmate that I missed there. I probably should have done the check. Interesting. Yeah, we'll go back and look at 924 for sure. Okay, so with this puzzle we have black to move, and we have a sacrifice we can make. It looks like if we did a check such as like knight f3, the pawn would recapture. We could take. Yeah, we could take the rook. We would be sacrificing a knight for a rook, which seems like a winning exchange. Is there anything better that we can do? I don't think so. I think this is going to be knight f3. Takes and takes. Now we need to finish this. Okay. What's the next move? So I'm thinking it has to do with the pawn tension on the queen side of the board. So if we take and retakes, those are blocked. Oh, we have I totally missed the passed pawn on c7. That is awful that I didn't see that. I think we now need to move rook c1 to prevent the queen. Perfect. Awesome. Only 3 to go to match our puzzle rush from last session. Okay. So black to move. Interesting. So if I check on b8, then the white king wins the pawn, and I get the pawn behind it. But now the white king is in front of a passed pawn. Doesn't seem optimal to me. Interesting. So there's a tactic here. I'm not exactly certain what it is. If I take the rook, the white king recaptures. I don't have a good pawn move. Okay, let's think math and numbers here. So I have a 4-on-3 pawn majority. How long will it take for me to queen? So e4 takes. If they do nothing, it's e4 3 2 1 1 2 3 4 moves. e4, if he takes, that's a waste of his move, and I retake. And so really it's 4 moves. So in 4 moves, I can push the e-pawn. If I take the rook and he retakes with the king, then he will have to take the pawn 1, step out of the way 2, and then 1 2 3 4. Okay, so I think we take the rook, and then we push the pawn. Retakes, and yeah, we've got the winning idea. Awesome. Not too shabby. Winning in game. Okay. Black to move. Let's see. Checks that we have available. The queen can take on e1. The rook would recapture. We could capture the last rook. And the king can safely escape to g2. At that point, we could pawn h3 check, and there's nothing stopping him from just taking that. Interesting. So it's not just a simple back rank checkmate. We do have the bishop on a6. He doesn't have an easy way to cover the a8 to h1 diagonal. Welcome to the stream, by the way. If you're watching, feel free to jump into the chat and toss out your ideas for these puzzles, what moves that you think are the solutions. Doing some Puzzle Rush now, and we'll be jumping into a rapid game after this. Yeah, the queen is in danger, so the queen needs to move. And I'm thinking that for the sake of the puzzle, the best move for the queen is the forcing move of queen takes e1. So let's think down that line. So if we take, oh, we'll have a check. Okay, so at the end of all the trades, when we have a rook on e1 and the king is able to escape into g2, we will have a check on f1 with the bishop, and the king will be able to step only to f3. Now, how does that help? Oh, there's a skewer possible in that situation. Okay, I think I see it. So then we check, we push h3. What stops the king from taking it? Okay, I'm going to start with the queen takes move. Takes. Okay. We have the check with the pawn. If the queen recaptures, then we have a skewer. But again, what is stopping the king from just being the one to retake? It's interesting to know that the rook will have a capture on a2 once the bishop is moved from a6. Interesting to note. So let's say, okay, let's say the queen takes on h3 in our idea, or we push the pawn. So then we go bishop f1, we skewer, we take the queen. Sweet. That's perfect. If the king takes, we can still check, but he's able to move to h4. There has to be something that we can do to capitalize on that. It looks like we'll be able to threaten the queen with the move rook g8 if that happens. The queen will be able to move down to maybe like h5 or f5. The rook can't come to e4 to give a check to the king. The bishop on d5 will be guarding that square. Most intriguing. I don't know what we'll do if the king steps down in that direction, but I'm going to go ahead and give this pawn check. And that's not it. That wasn't it. All right. Okay, so next we've got white to move. We have a queen trade possible. If we do that, if we trade queens, the king is in front of his pawns. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves to go. The king has to move out of the way 1, and then it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we will queen right before. We will queen first, and their queening square will not be with check, so we don't have to waste a move moving the king. Yeah, I think the trade's worth it. Oh, we have 2 steps, actually. Yep, solid. That's great. Okay, white to move. I have a knight that's pinned to the king. That seems useful. This one looks like it's forking. If we were to check with the bishop, the light squared bishop on e6, if the pawn wasn't there, then we could fork the king and knight, which is really interesting. And we could threaten. Yeah, we could threaten the king. Sorry, threaten the knight on g4 if we take and threaten the queen, rather. And then I don't know if the pawn retakes, we have a free rook up there. But we're also in danger. Like, it looks like queen h2 is a queen trade. It's not checkmate, but it's pretty bad. No, we would take with the queen first. They'd retake with the knight. We'd get the knight. So that's not actually the best move for black in this situation. I'm wondering if, how in danger that we actually are. If we take the pawn on f7 with our rook and the knight recaptures, then we have our bishop fork. And then if we take the king, the knight, I don't know why I keep messing that up. If we take the knight and he tries to retake with the pawn, we have the rook. And then the attack is really not there for black. He'll be able to take the rook, maybe, with check. When we take his rook, he'll be able to take ours with check. And then we'll have a check. No, the bishop won't be able to check on d6 in the end of that. I don't know that this is the best idea, though. Let's see. Are there any other checks? We, of course, have queen g4 check, but that seems catastrophic. Seems like a horrible move. I guess I'm going to go for it. We're Rook takes f7. No, that's not it. Okay. All right, 18. So yeah, not so bad. Obviously wish that it could have done a little better, but yeah, 18 is not so bad for a Puzzle Rush. We had some really interesting puzzles this session that I'm happy to go through. So in this puzzle, we made the move Rook Queen A4, and we just won the puzzle. The theme is Knight Outpost. Theme pin. I would like to analyze this. So check. This says mate in 3. King D8 is what I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay. So then bishop B4. Bishop B4. Ooh. Is that really the right idea? I need to have an analysis cut out apparently for this. An analysis Twitch board setup. So I was thinking bishop e7 check, but that doesn't seem to be it. This thinks that it's bishop b4, and then say queen b7. Queen takes a5 check. King d7. Interesting. So we won a pawn. And there were threats of checkmate if our opponent didn't find the optimal position. Interesting. That was just kind of a strange puzzle to me. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at the first puzzle that we missed. So this was black to move. And I believe, let's see, what did we try doing? We found the first move, which was this check. No, we did not. I took the queen. Okay, so let's just see. There was a checkmate here. I just couldn't see how this would finish. Oh, I just didn't look at taking the pawn on f2. That's silly. All right, well that is not quite mate. That finishes it. Okay, yeah, I just missed the capture. That's really interesting. Okay, that one was not so bad. Just overlooking the pawn capture. All right, and this one was a 1054. Okay, so with this one we found, let's see, the pawn captures first. We takes. My two thoughts were bishop check on f1 and pawn check on h3. And I went with the pawn, but it's probably the bishop check. Okay, see, because if he goes outside like that, what are we going to do about it? Skewer, it's a skewer in that direction too. Not two, I should say. Okay, what happens if he goes h3? He can't go h3. Okay, so this was forcing the king onto a square that produced a skewer. Interesting. It's weird that opposition is a theme in this. That doesn't seem to me to be the theme here. But that's really clever. The skewer that happens after. Yeah, I don't know. I probably should have checked with the bishop first. I was just worried about how to capitalize on the king escaping. You know, it's always worrisome to me when the king is able to escape like that, getting to the center of the board. Okay, let's check the next one. This one was an 1171. With white to move. Oh yeah, we had several options here. I went for it's not the forcing move, unfortunately, but oh, can I just take the queen? What's wrong with taking the queen? Is that going to be the move? Oh no, sorry. I'm crazy. Yeah, the black has to move once first, but this is interesting. The bishop moving backwards to d1, threatening the queen and the knight through it. I guess to get the queen to move, check, queen takes, knight takes, king takes. That's also just a weird puzzle to me, because does the queen have any other options? That might be it. The queen doesn't have any other safe options. Okay, so the queen is trapped by that. Needed to recognize that the queen is surrounded by pieces and that it might be in trouble. Okay. That's good to know. Trapped piece is the theme. Interesting. Okay, I don't know that I just like intuitively check that as often as I probably should. So yeah, I'm actually really excited that we saw this puzzle, so that I could, yeah, gain and benefit from that. That is great. Awesome. Okay, well, I feel like, although we got to 18, that's not so bad. I feel like we found some good puzzles that will hopefully help. Yeah, help with chess improvement in the future. So next we are going to play a game of rapid chess. And yeah, this is going to be a blast. I'm going to play a rated game against a random opponent. And we'll see how it goes. Switch to the game view. All right, Meatball King. Let's... how do I want to play this? Do I just want to play an Italian, or should I go for a French? Let's go French defense. Let's see how this plays out. Okay. Now please don't do the exchange variation. It's the most boring. All right, we're going for an exchange French. Yeah, I'm going to go for we'll do c6. So it's a like reversed Italian opening. Interesting. I normally move bishop f6 next. I mean, if he wants to trade, I mean, the knight won't have... Let's see, will the knight have an easy way to push the queen around? No, I guess I'll offer the trade if that's what he wants. Maybe he doesn't understand. Maybe he doesn't expect, rather, for us to make this move. It'll be great if he just backs off and loses the tempo. But yeah, I should probably... Ooh. Okay. So he opts to just defend. That is very interesting. I'm thinking maybe knight f6, and then bishop g4 to gain a tempo against the queen. We do have two attackers now against d5. Knight f6 would cover the d-pawn. Might have to go with that, except I wouldn't want the check. I think knight e7 is normally a preferable move, because I want to trade off my light square bishop rather than my dark square bishop. Yeah, I think this is fine. I think this is fine for us. We're going to go with knight e7 to stop a check, to defend the pawn. And we're going to castle. And if the bishop comes out on... Okay. Castling queenside. Yeah, he wants to give the pin next. It's an interesting way to play it. Yeah, his light square bishop will just have a good square on d3 if we don't trade off. So I think now I can castle. And I don't have to worry about the queen's threat on f7, I believe. If rook e1, if rook e1, we can go rook e8. That's what I was thinking. Okay, so now we just have to wait and see if this tactic happens. So if I go bishop f5, takes, and the bishop is hanging. No, the bishop's not hanging because the knight, as long as the knight sits still. So, oh no. If the knight moves, takes. Yeah, I think I lose a piece in that if I offer that trade. Right? Yeah. So light squared bishop takes. I wonder if there's another tactic, though. Takes. And the last piece on f5 is hanging with the queen attacking it. Certainly not optimal. Yeah, rook e8 is looking like a better move. Man, I really wanted to play bishop f5. Yeah, this is really important. So now if I do nothing, if he takes, he can line up a battery. I think rook e8 is the better move. Starting off, for right now, rook e8 is the better move. If he lines up the battery, there are things I can do about it. I can at some point go knight d7 and then knight f6 to protect h7. Yeah, the exchange French is my least favorite French defense variant, just because it's usually super drawish. I don't know, the symmetrical position a lot of times. Okay, so what, Greek gift? Greek gift. Incredible if so. Where you're going to check me? Do you have compensation for that? It's not a battery yet. Okay, so queen h5, and I just step back. Then what are you going to do? This is very intriguing. Yeah, what are you going to do? Okay, so you're attacking the pawn again. This one is super interesting to me. How is his attack going to pan out now? The bishop's hanging now. I mean, he has to do something. The bishop's hanging and it's check if I take. I can take with check. I mean, I'm underdeveloped, but he's not developed either. Interesting. That does not seem optimal. He now doesn't have the light squares. I don't have to trade light squared bishops. So I need to... Man, I need to threaten the queen. If possible. I don't think there's an immediate way to do that, but... I can double your pawns, too, if I take that. Okay, so takes... Like, what are you going to do? Yeah, now his queenside pawns are kind of wrecked, and like mine, mine are too. But yeah, I'm really interesting to see how White will capitalize on that sacrifice. If it was protected, Bishop G4 would be a great, fork. That would be awesome. Looks like I can go Queen C7. Seems like a good move. Threatening the pawn on f4. If the pawn pushes, we have a safe capture. We still have two defenders of the d5 pawn and two attackers. That hasn't changed. That is also very strange. Oh, to cover the pawn. Okay. And develop a piece, I guess. Why would I not just... Okay, so I can trade my bad bishop for your knight that could have an outpost. And then take the pawn? Yeah, I have to do that. Do I take the pawn with check? Yeah, I think I take the pawn with check next. I'm just gonna have to be really careful to not accidentally get checkmated here. Okay, is there any tactic if I just take the pawn? It's with check. What is he gonna block with? Interesting. We need to get developed ASAP after this. Yeah, I really don't think that the Greek gift idea with the bishop sacrifice, I don't think that's going to play out. All I need to do is defend. I don't know. I just need to defend with a minor piece and not let that knight in to give checkmate. Okay. So the knight only has one good move. Yeah, I think that getting my knight into d7 is the best way to go. And then bringing my rook over. Is that a... Oh, interesting. That was a blunder. Wow. Man. Okay. So now B7 is hanging. Wow, I can't believe I hung that. That was very silly of me. Yeah, that would have been a good move. If the queen wasn't covering D7. Interesting. I have a pawn, he has a pawn. Let's see, I can just protect the pawn first. I'm still not feeling bad about this. My pawn structure is better than his. Man, that extra knight really would have been great going into the endgame. That was a silly move, but man, I'd rather have the rook on d8 though. But yeah, I think the healthy pawn chain is going to be useful. Do I take the isolated pawn now and allow it to break up my pawn chain? This one's really interesting. I still think that my knight is going to be better than his. At least right now. I'll go rook b8 and see where he goes. That was really good. That was good. Good awareness. He saw it pretty quick. And now I do have the issue of the exposed king on the H file that could come back to haunt me. We'll see how that goes. Hey, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining me today. Feel free to jump into the chat with your thoughts and ideas. I don't know if you missed it, but I had I don't know. We had this crazy situation where... Ooh, am I lagging out? Oh, he made a move. Okay. We had the situation where White gave up a bishop, took the pawn on h7 without a battery. I took back with the king and then, stepped back to g8. I was up. I had taken a pawn as well, so I was up a full 3 points, and then I just blundered this knight on d7. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Again, giving me the pawn. What are you going to do? I do have an escape square, so I'll go ahead and be greedy and take the pawn. I need whatever advantage I can get with the H-file open. Okay. Really not in the best position. I mean, up a pawn or not, like, he's coming onto my king side. I'm exposed. This is going to be difficult. I don't know how to stop. I guess I should play g6 to stop the knight from coming in at all. My queen still has the square e3 to run away on. Okay. It feels awful, but great at the same time. Queen G2. Just like maintaining pressure on everything at once. So if the rook moves over, I take the pawn. If anything moves, I take something. No, the knight can freely move, if that's the case. I can threaten the pawn on d4. Yeah, queen d2 would threaten the pawn. And I'm scary close to the king. It'd be really cool if I could force a queen trade. That would be nice. Just to be straight up a pawn at this point would be awesome. I would feel way better about this endgame if I was just up a pawn. Because putting my king on g7, I'd feel relatively safe from the rooks. I guess let's go with it. The queen on d7 is really just cramping everything up. So I feel like I have to either like win a pawn. I have to win another pawn before I can give up b7 and just give it away. It's really scary, honestly. Now I have a knight outpost as well on f5, which will be nice. Just kind of cuts down on the queen squares. Have to be really careful watching for mate here. Interesting. If you check me, offering the material again. So then you check. I can move over to what, f8 maybe. And then what? I'm always wondering what the next step for him is when he offers these crazy material. sacrifices. He's really willing to sacrifice to break up the pawns in front of my king. If I don't take that, what are you going to do? I guess he's going to fork on f6. And we don't have a good protection for that. Yeah, and I can't really cover that square either. I almost feel like I almost have to take. I'm just trying to think of what'll happen next. Like, I'm going to get checked by a rook. It's going to happen. He's going to have a double. He's going to be able to double. Yeah, I think I have to take. I don't see a way to cover f6. It's gonna add a weakness though. The question is, where do I go after the check? I now have my king behind an isolated pawn. Isolated f pawn. Okay. So then the safest is probably f8. Or is it h8 so I can bring the rook over? Okay, this is a big question because, oh, no, if I go h8, the pawn is hanging, is that right? Yeah, so I have to go f8. To save that pawn anyway. See where it goes with this. It's down by 4 points technically, but until I find a way to force a trade of queens, this is going to be difficult. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. Playing some rated rapid chess right now. Currently up 4 points of material after some kind of interesting sacrifices by my opponent. I should be up 7 right now, but I blundered a knight, just completely hung it. Yeah, I'm in the situation where I'm technically up in material, but positionally I'm in a worse position as I have. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, as my king is super exposed. So he's giving up the threat on b7. He's probably trying to get the queen out. I mean, obviously that's what he's trying to do. Don't know where he's trying to send it. I can threaten the queen and make him move it again. He can check on h6. Is that checkmate? Yeah, I think it is. I need to move my knight. I can't. The knight is pinned. Yeah, this is very interesting. Oh, the queen is actually covering h6. Checkmate is not an option yet, but this is very dangerous. Where will he move to if not? He could go queen f6. It's a really good attack, honestly. It's a really interesting attack. Queen f6, and then if he takes, I can't take back. I need something covering. Or sorry, if he takes f7, I need something covering f7. I don't have a good knight move that leads to f7 being covered a second time. My rooks are on the wrong side, actually. Rook d8, queen f6. Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, the knight's pinned. The knight can't interpose. I'm not going to be able to go queen h6 because that'll be covered by the queen. I can go queen e3 first, and then I can, yeah, I can go queen e3 first, and then I can drop down to e6 if I have to. Try to get a trade. I'm thinking that might be the move. Since it's attacked twice, I'm covering it twice if that happens. This is an interesting one. It's going to come down to the wire. He can add another attacker, but I can try to trade queens. If I can survive this, then my king will be, you know, I feel like a little closer to the in-game action. Yeah, this one feels pretty high octane with all the queen tactics. His problem is that he really wants the queen to be on h6, obviously, but yeah, I'm covering that square. Ooh, if I come down to e6, yeah, I'm still covering the square. Wow, that geometry is great. This might actually be better for me. If I'm able to more directly cover the square. Interesting. If I go f3, then I'm not covering h6 anymore. I have to keep covering. I can't go to f4. This is really well played. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna survive this attack. If I trade a queen for a rook, I'm technically down a pawn. Is that right? I give away 9, and I gain 5. So I could take one more of anything, then I would, you know, would be doing okay. Like, this might be the only option. The knight's still pinned, though. I'm going to have to make a decision pretty quick. If I can't F4, I get taken. It's going to be mate pretty soon. I can stall his attack. I can fork the queen and the pawn. Get on his king side. Man, that'll be really scary, though. I'll be able to move here, and then he'll just check, and it'll be checkmate. Yeah, I think it still doesn't change checkmate. The only chance will be, I guess, the back rank. If I take on E1. Okay. If he checks there. If I take there now and he checks on H6, it's checkmate. Oh, but he has to respond. He has to take back. So then I cover the square. Oof. But I can't. Here. And then he checks. And then I move to G8. And then it's rook. But then I have the knight move at that point. Okay, this is going to look crazy, guys, and I think I might lose this game, but I'm going to go ahead and take on E1. We're going to go rook to D8 once that is over. He has to recapture with the rook. This has been a wild one. If I didn't blunder that knight, I think this would be a more of a winning endgame. Oh, it actually evens it out. Interesting. Still has a good attack, though. Yeah. So now what do you do? What's your next move? Take the pawn, yeah, and get ahead of pawn. Interesting. So I gotta defend the knight and threaten the back rank mate. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not gonna get the back rank. I can threaten 2 pawns at once now. I really should not want to trade rooks when I'm down a pawn, but I feel like I need to stop this attack to get the pins off. I need for him to not have anything other than a pawn to support. Yeah. Now I'm going to watch for all these queen checks. He's going to check there. Interesting. Check. Oh, gosh. That's going to be bad. Dang. If I go here, then he's going to check. Check. Check with the rook, with the hanging rook. I can't let him check me here or here. Yeah, man, this guy's doing really well tactically. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to stop the knight falling there. I guess I can do this. Where can he check me at? I just need to not let him get that check on me. If I pawn up, then he just takes the knight. Is that right? With the queen? Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Dang. Yeah, that's just takes with the queen. Bravo, man! This has been a crazy one. Again, if I didn't blunder the knight, that was the key. There's not a lot that I can do here. I have to make some move. He's gonna check. He's gonna take. Here he's gonna take. There he's gonna take. Yeah, this is not great. This is not going to work out. This is a very well played game. So interesting with the very reckless sacrificing. Yeah, so now here and then check. Oh, and it's check against the rook. Man, that's going to be it. I have to give him the flag once he takes that. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Wonder what the... He had a fork against the king and the rook. He's trying to flag me? Yeah, timeout. Very good game to Meatball King. Oh, that was nuts. That was a crazy one. Down to 1168. Yeah, it was a good sport. Yeah, great game. That was just like, tactical on his part with the captures. I really didn't think that he had enough compensation with the early bishop sacrifice. Man, we've got... Let's see. So we've got, book, French defense, exchange variation. Yeah, great. Good moves. It recommends, okay, A5 here. Yeah, that was just like not really the best move. Yeah, I took, that was good. I could have protected H8 with knight G6. That is interesting. instead of threatening the pawn immediately. Okay. So then, yeah, that was an inaccuracy because I take, he takes, and I take with check. So this was all good. This was the key, and I really still shouldn't have been like, you know, just straight losing, but it just gave it away. He says to, oh, the engine wants me to move the knight. I guess blocking off the queen's escape. That's interesting. This was to protect the pawn. If I let's just look through this. Queen takes b7, knight takes d4. Let's see. Okay. Knight takes d4. And it's protected. So we give up that pawn and we take the center pawn instead, which makes complete sense to me. That would have been a good line. Yeah, it wants him to take that file. That was a good move, but a better move would have been f5. Interesting. Pinning the pawn and offering a trade, offering a queen trade would have been better. Right, because then I would be attacking the pawn. Again, it says I need to... Yeah, anytime you move pawns in front of your king, it's obviously seriously weakening it, but I was thinking that a formation with king g7 with the two pawns, in front of and beside, I thought that would be a good enough formation for the king to hold out, and then to allow the rook to come over to h8, to have that kind of like flow. Questionable. Says I should have taken the pawn here, which I could have taken the pawn, but what was I trying to cover? It says this is a good move, but the queen taking the pawn is the best. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was thinking. Why I didn't just take the pawn. That's super interesting. So then this gave me a tactic. And, brilliant. That's hilarious. I don't think that I've ever received a brilliant move before on chess.com. It says black is winning now, right? So I must have blundered again. Okay, so there's the issue. Okay, if I go king h8, what stops him from taking that pawn? If he takes the pawn, okay, so king h8 takes on f7. What do we have against that? Let's go back and let's say king h8, rook f7. Okay. Then queen takes d4. And what else? Okay, so it's just saying that it's even. This is really scary, though. I guess everything's still covered. I guess he can't... Man, this is just looking really scary to me. Yeah, it says that I should have gone to h8 into the other corner. I really didn't like the thought of the queen being able to check me out there. The h8 seems like a really scary spot. Just intuitively, that's not the place where I would go. It's really hard for me to think about. I should have immediately forced the queen to move. Yeah, what does it want me to do? It wants me to kick the queen out first, but yeah, this was already just a rough situation. Yeah, that was forced. Takes. Yeah, it was a really good game. I So the two key moments, looking back at this one, for me are blundering the timeout. The key moments for me are blundering the knight 97. I really had this game like really well won if I didn't make that mistake. And then King F8, that is a really hard one for me. I don't know how I would have seen that it was all okay. Something that is going to double rooks and end me, but I guess, I don't know. Yeah, that's a really strange tactical situation. Wow. Well, that was a really good game. You know, I believe that, what did that drop me under 1200, which is just fine. Here to get better. The goal is to, play these games, review them, see where it went wrong, try to play better in the next game. I really think that ND7 was that's just a straight blunder that if, just need to be wary of where the enemy queen is controlling, especially when it's, when it has squares in your territory. King F8 is a much more difficult thing to me. I don't know that I could have seen this. It's so exposed, so open. But I'm guessing that this is just slightly... No, see, at this point, this thinks the game is relatively even. And as soon as we go King F8, the engine thinks that white has, seriously won. If I go H8, this actually has me ahead significantly. I guess because it stalls white's attack, he can't just double there. I mean, he can... I don't know. This is super interesting to me, the way the engine thinks that this should go. Because it was rook takes, queen takes, rook, queen. What does this think should happen next? Queen E3. No, rook BD8. And then queen takes B7, right? Queen E3. What is this? This is protecting the pawn. Okay. Wait, I moved. Okay, so A4, and then A4, and then this says it's not quite sure what it wants. Yeah, this was really tricky. This would have been a very difficult line for me to find. I would have been very scared. Yeah, I just wouldn't. Don't feel super comfortable here. But this has me ahead because the engine can't see how. Engine can't see how white will, tactically finish the job. So, yeah, that's pretty hard as a human to understand, I feel like. That was a great game. Shout out to Meatball King 13 for being on the stream tonight, and shout out to everyone watching me tonight. Thank you so much for being on the stream, and yeah, we will do this again. The Puzzle Rush and Rapid format is something that I'm really enjoying a lot, and I feel like I'm learning every time we do this. So, yeah, thank you all so much. With that, I'm going to end the stream, and until next time, I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you so very much.